Since the OG Anunoby trade, the Knicks have really stepped up their game. But if they're aiming for the championship, they might still need another solid ball handler to lighten Jalen Brunson's load. You might wonder why, especially with Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes playing so well post-trade. Let's take a closer look. First, let's appreciate the bench players. In the 5 games since OG joined, Julius and Jalen have been leading in shots per 36 minutes, as expected. But guess who's right behind them? Deuce McBride has been on fire, transforming his game after the trade. His year-long three-point shooting is nearly 50%, and he's confidently taking his shots. When the three-pointer isn't an option, he's boldly driving past defenders. He plays like he secured his spot and isn't holding back. Quentin Grimes has also been in top form, looking more comfortable than ever this season. He's been a talking point for often disappearing in the offense, but now he's about to overtake IQ for the 3rd highest number of threes on the team, making them at a 38.6% rate. Perhaps the Knicks don't need to trade for a veteran after all. Taking a step back, it's clear that while McBride and Grimes have developed impressively, there are questions about how they'll fare under the intense pressure of high-stakes games like the Eastern Conference Finals. If the Knicks are serious about making a deep run this year and surprising everyone, they might need to boost their roster with more talent and perhaps a veteran presence to support Brunson. Let's examine a couple of potential options. Before we move on, we know you wouldn't want to miss out on more exclusive content like this. So, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to stay updated with all the latest in the world of the Knicks. Let's continue. Tyus Jones. He could be an ideal addition for the Knicks as an extra playmaker. Jones has excelled in this role with the Memphis Grizzlies, especially backing up Ja Morant. He's a natural point guard, which would be a great fit for the Knicks' second unit. His basketball IQ and playmaking are top-notch, and he's also an excellent shooter, boasting a 44% success rate from beyond the arc this year. The Knicks could potentially acquire him in a straight trade for Evan Fournier, maybe throwing in a second-round pick. However, Jones will become a free agent soon, so the Knicks would likely prefer someone who's under contract for the next season as well. Terry Rozier. Rozier is a prolific scorer, averaging 24 points and 7 assists while shooting 47% from the field and 36% from 3. His contract, which runs for the next 2.5 seasons at $23 million, $25 million, and $26.6 million, could be attractive for the Knicks, both in terms of his play and as a potential asset in future star trades. Trading him straight up for Evan Fournier would free up $25 million in cap space for Charlotte. The concerns with Rozier are his defensive weaknesses and whether he'd be willing to accept either a bench role or a reduced usage rate alongside Brunson. Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson is somewhat of a less consistent version of Terry Rozier. He's currently experiencing a slump in his three-point shooting, making only 30% of his attempts. On the positive side, Clarkson understands the bench role well, and his contract decreases to $14 million in the next 2 years. A potential challenge could be negotiating with Danny Ainge, known for placing high value on his players. The ideal scenario for the Knicks would be to trade Fournier and a second-round pick for Clarkson, but they'd likely pass on a deal requiring more. Malcolm Brogdon. The idea of the Knicks acquiring Malcolm Brogdon is intriguing, considering various aspects of his play. He's excelling in catch-and-shoot three-pointers this season, with an impressive 51.3% accuracy, making him a strong candidate for a backup point guard who can also align with Jalen Brunson. Brogdon, standing at 6'4" and weighing 230 pounds, is suitably sized for a point guard and can comfortably play the two. However, his performance is more effective as a primary playmaker. His tenure with the Celtics revealed a defensive vulnerability when he played as a shooting guard. At age 31 and with a history of injuries, averaging 24 missed games per season, Brogdon's health is a significant concern. His playing time has been substantial throughout his career, though it has decreased slightly lately. Despite the Blazers' overall struggles, they perform relatively better with Brogdon on the floor. His contract, worth $45 million for this season and the next, is considerable but might be a compelling reason for the Knicks to pursue him, given his potential to enhance team performance and his exceptional three-point shooting. The Knicks front office is always strategically planning, focusing not just on immediate transactions, but also on how these moves impact future opportunities. For instance, acquiring an all-NBA caliber player requires having matching salaries to make a trade viable. In the OG Anunoby trade, the Knicks skillfully retained all their first-round picks, which was a significant win. However, they traded away R.J. Barrett and his $23.8 million salary, which was initially seen as the likely outgoing money in a potential star trade. Now, Evan Fournier's contract becomes the centerpiece for any such future star trade. But here's the dilemma. Fournier's contract is also the only expendable one they can use to bring in a veteran point guard to bolster their bench unit. Considering the Knicks' impressive 6-1 run since the trade, it raises the question of whether they need external assistance at all. Deuce McBride has been impressive in his current role, but expecting him to shoulder this responsibility for the remainder of the season, including a hoped-for deep playoff run, might be asking too much. More crucially, the Knicks need a reliable backup for Jalen Brunson in case he faces any significant absence. Without Emmanuel Quickley, IQ, they lack a dependable emergency point guard capable of running an efficient offense for extended minutes each night. The Knicks need to strategize not just for the remaining 44 games and the playoffs, but also keep their options open for a potential major deal, possibly as soon as this summer. Let's consider Malcolm Brogdon, along with Quentin Grimes, who I wouldn't trade to Portland, and Deuce McBride. They make up $31.5 million in salaries starting July 1st. That's when McBride's extension kicks in, making him tradable. Under salary matching rules, they could bring in almost $40 million in return. They could bump up this number if needed, but it's a solid start. My view on Brogdon has shifted. Despite his injury-prone history, even if he's just seen as an expiring contract, he's more valuable than giving up a key player the Knicks wouldn't want to lose. In this case, the salary slot he occupies is more crucial than his value as a player. This is especially true compared to someone like Tyus Jones, who, while maybe better in some areas, brings complications with his upcoming free agency. But that's not the only reason to consider Brogdon. As a backup for Brunson, who ranks high in the NBA for drives per game, and as a pick-and-roll ball handler, Brogdon offers a similar offensive style. He's good at driving and handling pick-and-rolls too. Like Brunson, Brogdon can work the mid-range, but is even better at getting to the rim due to his size. His ability to draw attention on drives and make quick, slick passes benefits his team, as evidenced by the Blazers taking more shots in the restricted area when he's playing. Brogdon really shines when it comes to driving and passing to shooters outside the arc. Unfortunately, he's been with the Blazers, who aren't great at three-point shooting. But in New York, which ranks in the top 10 for three-pointers, Brogdon would thrive, especially with players like DiVincenzo and Anunoby around him, not to mention Randall and Hartenstein for pick-and-rolls. However, the main reason to bring in Malcolm Brogdon isn't just as a backup. It's because he can be a game-changer in the crucial months of April and May. In the 2022 playoffs, despite struggling in the Eastern Conference Finals likely due to his elbow injury, he was excellent against Philadelphia in the semis. In the Knicks setup, Brogdon would essentially fill the gap left by IQ. He'd play the minutes when Brunson is resting, possibly alongside Julius Randle if Thibodeau keeps the rotations the same, and another 10 to 12 minutes with Brunson. Unlike DeJounte Murray, Brogdon can come off the bench without disrupting the starting lineup. So where would Brogdon's minutes come from in the current roster? The upside is that Brunson won't have to play as much. Since the trade, he's averaged 37.4 minutes, slightly up from before, but this is skewed as he's sat out during garbage time. In tighter games, he might have to play 38 to 40 minutes, but Brogdon could keep it around 35. The downside: Donte DiVincenzo and Quentin Grimes would see reduced playing time, and Deuce McBride would likely lose his spot in the rotation. But these adjustments could be worth it for the strategic depth and flexibility Brogdon brings to the team. We should not be too worried about the potential complications of acquiring Malcolm Brogdon. Firstly, if the Knicks do go for Brogdon, it's likely to happen closer to the deadline. Portland will probably try to increase his value by sparking a bidding war. This delay means Deuce and Grimes will have more opportunities to prove themselves, which might even eliminate the need for the trade. Plus, considering Brogdon's history with injuries and the possibility of Brunson missing games, there should be enough playing time for everyone on the roster. They'll all get their chance to contribute. Regarding the trade cost, Jeremy Cohen of Knicks Film School has already suggested a plausible deal. Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, fitting into one of Portland's exceptions to avoid aggregation rules, and Milwaukee's 2025 first-round pick with a top 4 protection. This trade isn't cheap, but it also means keeping Grimes, all of New York's own picks, and swaps. It's a balanced trade-off. The OG Anunoby trade has already demonstrated the Knicks front office's willingness to be aggressive, especially with heightened expectations. Brogdon ticks many boxes for the Knicks, both for their immediate needs and future plans. It wouldn't be surprising to see him playing at the Garden a lot more this season. DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's situation is a bit more complex. While he and Trae Young have a solid offensive rating of 116.4 when they're on the court together for Atlanta, this is over 3 points below their overall offensive output. This disparity is even greater when comparing to lineups that feature just one of Trae or Murray. This suggests some inefficiency in their pairing. Comparing Trae Young and Jalen Brunson, they are different types of players. Despite Young being an incredible passer, the combination with Murray hasn't been as effective as expected. Young's limited off-ball movement might be a factor, similar to Julius Randle's tendency to be static without the ball. Brunson, however, has adapted well to playing off Randle's movements, a dynamic that might not be as smooth with Murray, who also likes to operate in the mid-range, much like Brunson. A big part of Murray's appeal is his ability to lead the bench unit without Brunson. Lineups featuring Murray without Young score an elite 122.3 points per 100 possessions. These lineups don't include anyone as offensively talented as Julius Randle, so the potential is even higher. However, there's a downside. Teams often challenge Murray to shoot, despite his progress as an offensive player. Brunson and Randle work well together, partly because teams fear Brunson's three-point shooting. Murray excels in mid-range shooting, 48% on mid-rangers and 51% on long twos. But that's not exactly what the Knicks need. From three-point range, Murray is somewhat inconsistent. On the upside, he's accurate in pull-up threes, hitting 40.5% of his 84 attempts. While not high volume, it's enough to punish teams that play him loose. This suggests that lineups with him and Julius could be highly effective offensively. Murray's performance in catch-and-shoot three-pointers is another aspect to consider. Although he ranks outside the top 50 in total made catch-and-shoot threes, he hits them at a decent 37.5% rate. That's respectable, but not necessarily ideal for a starting shooting guard alongside Brunson and Randle. On the other hand, Donte DiVincenzo has emerged as one of the league's best in catch-and-shoot scenarios. He ranks high not only in the number of threes made, but also in shooting percentage, which is even more impressive considering the difficulty of his shots. DiVincenzo is constantly on the move, shooting off screens and extending his range nearly to 30 feet. This versatility might make him a better fit for the Knicks' starting offense than Murray. Defensively, while Murray has been known as a defensive stopper, his last all-defensive team inclusion was 6 years ago. He's received votes since then, but that's partly based on his reputation. He's not as effective in team defense, unlike DiVincenzo, who excels in this area. Murray is still solid in guarding the point of attack, but we have to question the overall value he brings to team defense, especially considering the impact he would have on the starting offense and the cost of acquiring him versus cheaper alternatives. Murray's contract also adds to the complexity. Once his extension starts this summer, he'll average $28.5 million, making him a valuable asset in potential star trades. Murray's contract and versatility make him an attractive piece for many teams. On the other hand, Tyus Jones, who is an expiring contract and a good fit, would need a pricey extension to keep his value high. This might make him harder to trade, whether in a summer sign and trade or later. Deciding whether the Knicks should pursue DeJounte Murray is complicated, and it's hard to definitively say if it's a wise move without considering a few key factors. The cost. The possibility of having to include Grimes in a deal for Murray is a significant concern. Grimes' current role and potential as an eighth man in his third year might not reflect a premium asset, but there's a real opportunity cost in giving him up. It's unlikely that any other deal for a backup point guard would demand Grimes, so his inclusion would need to be justified by a strong belief in Murray's fit with the team. Other options. There are several other names being tossed around for the Knicks' backup point guard position, including Tyus Jones, Malcolm Brogdon, Terry Rozier, and Jordan Clarkson. Unlike the unique defensive and shooting combination OG Anunoby offers, these players provide various options for the Knicks bench. Additionally, there might be viable internal solutions, such as adjusting minutes to pair DiVincenzo and Hartenstein with Randle, giving Malachi Flynn a shot, or simply allowing more time for Deuce to develop. Future implications. It's important to consider what Murray could mean for the Knicks in future trades. If the Knicks are eyeing a star player this summer, how much value would Murray add in a potential deal? While striving for the perfect player or deal can often hinder good opportunities, long-term implications should not be ignored. Acquiring Murray with the intention of later trading him to reach the promised land might not be ideal, especially if the belief is that a core of Brunson, Murray, OG, and Randle isn't strong enough to contend for a title. It's not that getting Murray would be a bad move per se, but at this moment, it may not be the most strategic option to explore first. The verdict. Given all these factors, it seems reasonable for the Knicks to prioritize Malcolm Brogdon, Tyus Jones, and DeJounte Murray in that order for their additional ball handler needs. Brogdon stands out due to the balance he offers in terms of the trade's cost, his potential fit within the team, acceptance of his role, and the value his contract could provide in future trades.